Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Prince Automation Destination. This is Prince. I hope you are doing well. So today we are going to talk about a brand new feature of Java, that is record. So record is a class introduced in JDK17. This is a special kind of class which is meant for the purpose of representing the data in simple and immutable format, meaning once the data is defined, it cannot be modified. So now let us move on to the discussion. So as part of today's discussion, we will try to understand what is record, what is the syntax of record, and we will try to demonstrate practical uses of record. And then later we will try to understand the limitation of record and how to use it in test automation. So now let us try to understand what is record. So this is a special type of class which helps to model data aggregates with less ceremony than normal class. So wherever we are using the classes in the form of data, as like we use POJOs, so at that point of time, we need to create the entire class. We need to define the instance variables. We need to write the getter and setter. And this is how we utilize a class, right? But with the help of record, it becomes simple. Or now the ceremonies are reduced. So you will soon understand why I'm calling it as ceremonies are reduced. So records fields are final because record is intended to serve as a data carrier. So in record, whatever the data members are there, they are final because once the data is created, that is not going to change. So this report is created for this purpose only. That's why all the fields are final. And it reduces the boilerplate code. What does it mean? So now we don't need to write the entire class. We don't need to write the constructor, getter, setter. So it will reduce the boilerplate code drastically, right? Now talking about the key features of record. So ease of declaration, instead of class, now we need to simply use record instead of class keyword. Specify the fields. We don't need to create a class like syntax and we don't need to define the instance variables inside it. Instead, we need to define everything within the header itself. You will soon understand, right? Immutability, all the fields are final. So once the object of this particular record is created, we cannot modify it, right? Because this is immutable, right? Automatic member generation, right? It automatically generates constructor. So as I mentioned, we don't need to write the constructor. Accessor methods, meaning for example, whatever the instance variables or whatever the data members we are defining in the class, in this record class, we don't need to write the getter setter. Accessor methods will automatically be created. And on top of it, this record automatically implements equals hash code and toString method of object class. So as you know, that object is the parent of all the classes. Similarly, it is the parent of record class as well, right? Now, this is the glimpse of record class. So if you take a look at this, record employee like method, we are starting the braces and here only we are defining the instance variables. So rest of the work is being taken care by the compiler. So we don't need to write anything. So above record is equivalent to creating a class with private data members, that is first name, last name. Constructor will be taken care internally and accessor like first name method will be automatically created, last name would be automatically created, and implementation of equals hash code and toString methods. Like for example, once we have created this particular employee record, we create the object of it and later employee.firstname, we simply can use it without even creating the getter setter. And we will get the output, right? Now let us jump onto the practical demonstration, right? So this is a Maven based project where I'm using JDK24, sorry, right? And here I've created a POJO package, right? Now I'm going to create a record, right? I'm going to click on Java class and here you will start saying record, right? So I'm going to give it name employee. So you see, it got created and here we need to define our variables now. So string first name, comma string last name. And then what we need to do, we are going to define a main method, right? And here we are going to create employee object. And let us provide instance variables. Okay. So you see, it is not looking for parameterized constructor because we have already passed it here in the declaration that is in header, right? So it is not giving any error, right? So this is how we can create a record. Now we can access the methods, right? So what I'm going to do is sout, let us print the first name, employee.firstname, sout, employee.last name, right? So you see, it is not giving any error, right? Employee.last name. So you see these methods are automatically created. So if I run this, you will see I'll get pre and automation, and it is coming internally because this first name, last name, these are the accessor methods and are automatically created. So you see I'm getting this, right? So this is how we can do it. Okay. Also, as we mentioned that it implements the toasting methods as well. So we can simply call employee.toastMe, right? So as a result, what will happen is it will print pins and automation directly as part of object. So we will see employee first name equal to pins, last name equal to automation. While when we are getting the employee, we need to explicitly define the toasting method, right? So this is how it works, right? Now let us come back and let us talk about the customer validation, right? So by default, it has the constructor. Still, if we want to implement like some custom implementation, like for example, if first name or last name is empty, we can throw an exception that this is an invalid name, right? And we can do the custom validation in two fashion. One using the canonical constructor where we need to explicitly define the field assignment. Another one is the compact one, right? So we are going to talk about both. So in compact, we don't need to do the field assignment. It will be automatically taken care, right? So let us talk about the custom validation using canonical constructor, right? So here what we are going to do is we are simply going to create a constructor. Public employee string first name or string last name. Okay, and here what we are going to do is we are simply going to write if first name dot is blank or last name dot is blank, right? So at that point of time, we simply want to throw an exception, throw new illegal argument exception, not a valid name, right? And now we need to explicitly assign the variables as well. So this dot first name, this dot first name equal to first name, and this dot last name equal to last name, right? So now if I make any of these fields as empty and let us try to run it, we will get the exception that this is not a valid name. So let us see. So you see, this is not a valid name. So let us similarly do it for last name as well, right? Because we have kept the OR condition. So you see, we got this particular exception once again. So this is how we can do the custom implementation when we want to create the object, right? So the next thing is, let us talk about the compact one, right? Where we don't need to do the field assignment. So we'll be simply creating the object like this, right? So let us come here, right? So now what we will be doing is we will be simply removing this particular section, right? From here. Okay. And we will be not from here, sorry, from here, from the constructor, right? And we need to remove this particular explicit assignment, right? So you see, now we are not getting any error. So the assignment of first name and last name to this particular object is happening because of this particular syntax in this case, right? Because we are not passing first name and last name explicitly. While in case of canonical constructor, we were passing it here. That's why we need to do the assignment, right? So this is the compact constructor. Okay. So now if you will see, we will get the exception again, but because the last name is empty. So let me make it as Prince automation and let us run it once again. So you see, it is working fine, right? So this is how we can implement the custom logic, right? Or custom validation, we can say. So what are the use cases? So records are ideal for data carriers. So whenever we have a requirement that we want to use a class for the data purpose only, which is not going to change, so only then we should use record. So it can be used for fetching the data. Suppose we have fetched the data from the database and we want to store it in a class. So in that case, we can use record. We can use it for the API responses during this deserialization. So for example, when we are hitting our API request, at that point of time, we will be getting the response and we can use the record to map it because that data is not going to change, right? And talking about TestNG, so in TestNG also, through data provider, we can use it because once we are reading the data, that is not going to modify, so we can use it, right? So in such cases, we can use it. We'll be talking about more in the next sessions, right? Now talking about the limitations. So record is final, so we cannot extend it. Okay, immutable fields, it cannot be modified, right? Because the fields are like immutable, we cannot modify it. I'll simply show you, right? No additional variables can be declared inside the record, only in header, right? If we want to introduce any extra member, we'll have to do it into the header itself. We cannot define the instance variables, right? Now let me come here and let us try to do one by one. Let us create a class main, right? And let us try to extend this particular employee, right? So you will see that this is not allowed. Okay. Similarly, talking about immutable field, that is, it cannot be modified. So if I come here and if I, for example, say employee dot set first name, right? We don't have any such method, and we cannot even create the generator. Like we cannot even generate the getter setters. Getter can be generated, but setter cannot be generated, right? Meaning we cannot update the value because these are the final variables. Okay. No additional variables can be declared inside the record. So for example, if I want to declare private string city, right? So this is not possible. However, static is possible, right? So if you see, we are getting the error, instance field is not allowed in records, right? However, we can define a static thing, right? Static string city, and as I belong to city Rohtak, let us keep it as Rohtak, right? Okay. Now if I, for example, want to get it, we can get it, right? Employee.city. So let us run it. So to get the access of static variables, we don't need to create the object. That's why we can access it from the class itself, right? So same thing is applicable here as well. So let us create a method, right? Public static void, not this one. This is for setting up the city, right? So let us change it, right? Because this is a static method. Static field we are going to change. We are not going to change the final fields. That we cannot do, right? Now let us do one thing. Let us first call employee dot set city and let us make it as Delhi, right? And now let us call it once again employee dot city. So this time it should be updated, right? Okay, meaning the native methods are allowed. So you see the city is now updated to Delhi, right? Talking about other features, accessor methods can be overwritten, right? So these are the accessor methods. So whatever we are accessing, first name, last name, they can be overwritten. So let us try to do so. Public string and first name, right? And let us say we want to print first name, right? Now if we'll try to run it, now we will get this particular message as well. So you see this first name is Prince, right? So we are getting because of this particular overridden, meaning we can override the accessor methods. The code can have static fields. So this is what we have discussed. We discussed about method as well. So we can create a static method as like we have just created, right? This set city. Also we can have initializer block, right? So we can have a static block. So let us create a static block and where let us say static block called. So static block is called even before initialization of class. So let us see the same. So you see static block called. So static block is also applicable here, right? So record can be created within the class. So we can create record within the class. We can use generics as well. So these are the other features if you want to explore, right? So this is what I wanted to cover, guys, as part of current discussion. In the next lecture, we will try to explore this particular record in the test automation realm, especially for deserialization of object as well as for data provider uses in _Test_N_G. So thank you for watching. I would request you to please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.